Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be exploring this really interesting book by Neville Goddard called Out of This World.
Yeah.
And we're going to be using excerpts from the audiobook, which is read by Neville himself,
That's right.
to kind of help illustrate and bring to life some of these concepts about unlocking the power of your mind to
Yeah.
shape your reality.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a pretty wild ride, folks.
It is a wild ride.
We're going deep into the fourth dimension today.
That's right. And it's not just about visualizing, it's about believing and feeling as if it's already happened.
So it's about more than just positive thinking now.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
about changing your perception of reality.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking about like rewiring our brains almost.
Exactly. Goddard suggests that we can actually influence the future
Wow.
by tapping into what he calls the fourth dimension,
Right.
where time is not linear like we experience
Okay.
it.
So instead of like a straight line, time is more like,
Think of it as a printed page.
okay.
You see all the words at once, but you can rearrange the words to tell different stories.
Oh.
And so Goddard uses this analogy to show how we can rearrange our sensory experiences to shape a new future.
Okay. So the potential futures are all kind of out there,
Mm-hmm.
but we get to choose which one we experience.
That's the idea.
How do we even begin to do that? How do we even begin to wrap our heads around that?
Well, Goddard talks about two types of minds,
Okay.
the carnal mind and the mind of Christ.
Okay.
Now, the carnal mind is limited to our five senses,
Right.
and it sees only the present.
Okay.
But the mind of Christ, which we can access through our imagination,
Okay.
can perceive the past, present, and future as a whole.
So it's almost like upgrading our mental software to see the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to tap into this mind of Christ, we need to shift our focus.
Okay.
Goddard suggests concentrating on an invisible state,
Uh-huh.
a desire, a goal, anything, and feeling it as if it's real.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a spiritual outlook.
Interesting. So it's not just seeing it in your mind's eye. It's about like engaging all your senses,
Yes.
right? Like if I want a new job,
Yeah,
I should feel the excitement of getting that offer.
absolutely.
Imagine myself working there.
Yes, make it as real as possible in your
Yeah.
imagination. That's how you begin to draw it into your physical reality.
This reminds me of that saying, seeing is believing, but it's almost like Goddard flips the script on that.
He does.
It's more like believing is seeing.
He definitely challenges our conventional thinking. He
Yeah.
would argue that we're blinded by our senses and
Yeah.
relying on them limits us.
Okay.
By developing a spiritual outlook, we
Mhm.
can see beyond those limitations.
This is blowing my mind.
Absolutely.
So if we can actually shape our future,
Mm-hmm.
what role does desire play in this process?
Yeah, that's a great question. Goddard talks a lot about desire being the driving force behind everything we do.
Right.
But how do we harness that desire to actually make things happen?
Yeah, because it almost feels like society tells us that desire is a bad thing.
It does.
You know, you shouldn't want things too much or,
Yeah, you should be content with what you have.
yeah, be happy with what you have.
Yeah.
He's saying no desire is actually the fuel.
He argues that desire is the key to unlocking action
Okay.
and fulfilling our dreams.
Okay.
Think of your strongest desire as fuel.
Yeah.
It powers your imagination
Okay.
and the actions you take toward your goal.
So instead of fighting against our desires,
That's right.
we need to lean into them and use them as fuel.
Exactly. He even goes so far as to say that even breaking a bad habit is driven by desire.
Really?
The desire to change is stronger than the desire to stay the same.
Wow. So there's a positive intention behind everything we do, even if it doesn't seem like it at the time?
Absolutely. There's always a personal gain in every desire, even if it's just making life more enjoyable
Right.
or fulfilling.
More fulfilling.
Yeah.
This reminds me of people who are afraid to dream big
Yeah.
because they're scared of failure.
Right.
What would Goddard say to them?
He'd probably encourage them to embrace those desires and see them as stepping stones to something even greater.
Oh, okay.
He'd say, fear is just an illusion,
Right.
a product of our limited perception.
Okay, so we have desire as our fuel,
Mm-hmm.
but how do we actually steer the vehicle towards our goals?
That's where imagination and assumption come in.
Okay.
Goddard suggests that instead of just visualizing,
Yeah.
we need to actually assume the feeling of our wish fulfilled.
Okay.
It's like embodying the feeling of already having achieved the goal.
So instead of just picturing myself getting a promotion,
Yeah.
I should feel the handshake, hear the congratulations, even feel the weight of my new business cards.
Precisely. It's about immersing yourself in the experience
Wow.
with all your senses living in the end, as Goddard calls it.
It's like tricking your mind into believing it's already happened.
Yes.
So instead of fake it till you make it, it's more like Feel it till you become it.
That's a great way to put it. Goddard argues that by doing this, we are actually influencing the fourth dimension,
Okay.
our higher self,
Okay.
which then sets in motion the steps needed to bring about the outcome in the physical world.
This is all so fascinating.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put this into practice?
Right.
Are there specific techniques we can use to cultivate this power of imagination?
Yeah. One of Goddard's most powerful tools
Okay.
is the waking dream technique.
Okay.
It's a form of conscious dreaming
Okay.
where we create a vivid, multisensory experience in our imagination that implies our wish is already fulfilled.
So it's like lucid dreaming while we're awake?
You could say that. It's about finding a relaxed but focused state of mind where we can deliberately control our imagination.
Okay. I'm definitely intrigued. I'm ready to start shaping my reality.
All right.
Tell me everything.
First, you need to define your objective clearly.
Okay.
What do you truly desire?
Right.
Then create a vivid scene in your imagination
Great.
that implies your wish is fulfilled. Engage all your senses: sight, sound, touch, smell, taste,
Wow.
to make the experience as real as possible.
So it's not just a mental picture.
Right.
It's a full-blown sensory experience.
Right. Next, relax your body, but stay mentally alert.
Okay.
This is crucial for entering a state of focused awareness,
Okay.
where you can direct your imagination.
So it's about finding that balance between relaxation and focus.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Then step into that scene you've created with all your senses and feel it happening now.
Okay.
Don't just observe it from a distance, become an active participant.
Okay.
Really immerse yourself in the experience.
This sounds like a powerful way to imprint our desires onto our subconscious minds.
It is.
Is this something that takes a lot of practice?
It does, but like any skill, it gets easier with time.
Right.
The more you engage in the waking dream technique, the more adept you'll become at controlling your imagination and shaping your reality. Goddard emphasizes that consistency is key.
So it's not about achieving instant gratification, but about building a new way of approaching life.
Absolutely.
Being more mindful of our thoughts and feelings.
That's right.
Because they have this creative power.
Exactly. And that's exactly where we'll pick up in part 2 of this deep dive.
Okay.
We'll continue to explore this concept and how to make it work in your life.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Neville Goddard's work. Before the break, we were talking about the waking dream technique.
Right.
It's a powerful tool, but Goddard goes even deeper, suggesting we can actually project ourselves into a dimensionally larger world.
Okay, that sounds pretty out there. Can you break that down for us? What does he mean by a dimensional larger world?
Well, Goddard challenges us to think of time not as a straight line, but as the fourth dimension, where all possibilities exist at once.
So instead of past, present, and future happening in a sequence, they all exist simultaneously.
That's the idea. It's like looking at a map of your entire life laid out before you.
You can see all the potential paths, all the choices you could make.
And by tapping into this fourth dimension, we can actually influence which path we end up taking.
Exactly. Think of it as a realm of infinite possibilities.
Okay.
By changing our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, we can shift our reality to align with the path we desire.
So it's not about physically traveling to another dimension.
Right.
But about expanding our consciousness to perceive this larger reality.
Precisely. Goddard argues that through practices like the waking dream technique, we can cultivate the ability to consciously project our awareness into this dimensionally larger world.
So it's like a conscious out-of-body experience where we can explore the potential futures available to us.
You could say that he describes it as feeling like waking up from a dream, but in another sphere where we're in control.
This is all so mind-boggling, but I have to ask, are there any ethical considerations when it comes to shaping reality? Could we inadvertently cause harm with this power?
That's a great question. Goddard stresses aligning desires with the well-being of ourselves and others.
Okay. He believes our thoughts and actions create a ripple effect, impacting not only our lives, but the lives of those around us.
So it's not about manipulating reality for personal gain, but using this knowledge to create a more fulfilling experience for everyone.
Exactly. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness and the responsibility that comes with the power to influence reality.
This is heavy stuff. It definitely challenges our conventional notions of free will and destiny.
It does.
If we're actively creating our reality, where do those concepts fit in?
Well, Goddard would argue that free will exists in the choices we make. About what to focus on. What to believe or what to feel. Our choices shape our reality. It's not about a predetermined fate,
Right.
but about consciously choosing the reality we want to experience.
So instead of being victims of circumstance,
Right.
we become active participants in shaping our destiny.
That's the empowering message at the heart of Goddard's teachings.
Right. He challenges us to take ownership of our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs
Mhm.
because they are the building blocks of our reality.
This makes me think about the law of attraction.
Yeah.
The idea that, like, attracts, like,
Goddard takes it a step further.
okay,
He doesn't just say we attract what we think about.
okay.
He says we become what we think about.
Wow.
Our thoughts and beliefs quite literally shape our reality.
Okay, so we're not just attracting circumstances, we're creating them from the inside out.
Exactly. And he emphasizes that the key is not just to think positive thoughts,
Right.
but to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Okay.
That's how we align ourselves with the reality we desire.
So it's not enough to just say, I want to be rich or I want to be healthy.
That's right.
We need to embody the feeling of already being those things.
Precisely. It's about bridging the gap
Mhm.
between our current reality and our desired reality by closing the feeling gap.
This is so profound.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of us who are just starting to wrap our heads around this, where do we even begin? Yeah.
Well, Goddard emphasizes the importance of defining our objectives clearly.
Oh, yeah.
What do we truly desire?
Right.
What kind of life do we want to create?
So before we can start shaping our reality,
Mm-hmm.
we need to have a clear vision of what we want to manifest.
Exactly. Once we have that vision, we can use the tools Goddard provides,
Right.
the waking dream technique,
Okay.
the power of assumption,
Okay.
and the understanding of consciousness to bring that vision to life.
This makes me wonder, what about the setbacks we inevitably face in life?
Yeah.
If we hit roadblocks, does that mean this isn't working?
Well, Goddard acknowledges that setbacks are a part of life.
Right.
He doesn't view them as failures,
Okay.
but as opportunities for growth.
Okay.
He encourages us to maintain a positive attitude
Right.
and an unwavering belief in our desired outcome, even when faced with challenges.
So it's about resilience
Yeah.
and trusting that even when things get tough, we're still moving towards our goals.
Yes. And that even apparent failures can be redirects towards something even better.
Okay.
It's about surrendering the need to control every detail
Right.
and trusting the process.
This is all starting to make sense. It's not about forcing things to happen,
That's right.
but about aligning ourselves with what we want and trusting that the universe will conspire to bring it about.
That's a great way to put it. And that's where we'll leave it for now.
Okay?
In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore specific techniques and real-life examples
Okay.
of how people have used Goddard's principles to transform their lives.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Neville Goddard's Out of This World. We've covered a lot of ground, from the power of imagination to stepping into a dimensionally larger world.
It's been a wild ride.
It really has. But now let's bring it all home.
Okay.
How can we actually use these ideas to change our lives?
That's the big question, right?
Right. We've talked about the why, but now it's time for the how.
Exactly.
We know the waking dream technique is key,
Mhm.
but can we unpack that a bit more?
Absolutely. Remember, the waking dream is about more than visualization.
Right.
It's about immersing yourself in the feeling of your wish fulfilled as if it's happening right now.
So if I'm dreaming of a new house,
Yeah.
I shouldn't just picture it. I should imagine myself walking through the reams, feeling the sunlight, even smelling the fresh paint.
Exactly. The more senses you engage, the more real it becomes to your subconscious mind.
Okay.
And that's what sets the wheels in motion.
It's like planting a seed in the garden of your mind. And the more vividly you tend to it, the more likely it is to blossom.
I like that analogy. It highlights the importance of tending to our thoughts and feelings consistently. It's not a one-time thing, but a new way of approaching life.
So it's like we're retraining our minds to focus on what we want rather than what we don't want.
Exactly. It's about recognizing when you're dwelling on negative thoughts or fears and consciously choosing to shift your focus to something more desirable.
It's like we become the editors of our mental movies, choosing which scenes to replay and amplify.
That's a great way to put it. And Goddard would say those scenes, those feelings have the power to shape your reality.
Speaking of shaping reality, we talked about Goddard's idea of a dimensionally larger world.
Right.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is. It challenges us to think of time as more fluid than we typically perceive it.
Right.
It suggests that all possibilities exist at once, and we have the power to choose which one we experience.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, it's not about time travel or physically going to another dimension. It's more about expanding our consciousness to tap into this realm of possibility.
You got it. And the waking dream technique, along with cultivating a strong belief in your desired outcome, are keys to accessing this dimensionally larger world.
So we're not just daydreaming. We're actually interacting with a deeper reality that has the power to influence our physical world.
That's the essence of Goddard's teaching. And the most exciting part is that anyone can do this.
Really?
It's about tapping into a power we all possess.
This makes me think about all the times in my life when I've had a strong feeling about something and it's actually come true.
Right.
Like, you know how sometimes you just have a gut feeling about something
Yeah.
and it turns out to be right.
That's a great example. Those intuitive hits, those gut feelings could be glimpses into this dimensionally larger world guiding us towards our desires.
Wow, this is all so incredible, but I'm sure some listeners are wondering, does this really work? Do we have any real-life examples of people using these principles to change their lives?
Yeah, absolutely. There are countless stories of people who have manifested dream jobs, healed relationships, even overcome health challenges using Goddard's teachings.
Do any specific stories come to mind?
Well, there's one about a woman who desperately wanted to travel the world but couldn't afford it.
Okay.
She used the waking dream technique to vividly experience herself exploring different countries, feeling the excitement of new cultures and tasting exotic foods.
Okay.
A few months later, she unexpectedly won a travel contest that sent her on an all-expenses-paid trip around the world.
Wow, that's amazing. It really shows the power of aligning our inner world with our desires.
Right.
Like what you were saying about believing is seeing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's almost like she willed it into being.
She did. Another example is of a man who was struggling with a chronic illness. He diligently practiced the waking dream technique, imagining himself healthy, vibrant, and full of energy.
Okay.
Over time, his symptoms began to improve, and he eventually made a full recovery. His doctors were astonished, attributing it to the power of his mind.
These stories are so inspiring. They show that this isn't just some mystical philosophy. It's a practical approach to creating the life we want.
That's right. It's important to remember, though, that Goddard's teachings aren't a magic formula or a quick fix. They require effort, dedication, and a willingness to challenge our limiting beliefs.
So it's about more than just thinking happy thoughts.
Exactly. It's a journey of self-discovery and transformation.
Yeah, it's like we're unlocking a hidden superpower that we never knew we had.
That's a great way to put it. Goddard's work empowers us to recognize that we are not merely passive observers of our lives, but active creators of our reality.
That's such a powerful message. Like, we have more control than we think.
That's the beauty of exploring these ideas. They open up a whole new world of potential.
Well, this has been an incredible journey through Neville Goddard's Out of This World. I feel like my mind has been stretched in all the best ways.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you. Remember, the power to change your world lies within you.
Keep exploring, keep imagining, and keep diving deep into the mysteries of consciousness. You might be surprised by what you discover. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.